So what do you think, Barbarian?
Another one. Death and Ramen released just a month ago, and this was in my recommended page pretty much almost as soon as I finished The Court Jester. So here we are, and I have to say I really enjoyed this one a lot. Maybe, just maybe, a little more than the last short. It's a black comedy starring Bobby Lee, who you probably know best from the online podcast Bad Friends on YouTube, the Harold and Kumar movies, and also starring in the new Borderlands movie set to come out this year, which is totally not going to be anyways. Firstly, go see this. It's on the Tiger G YouTube channel. It's only 15 minutes, and I very much think it's worth your time. There will be spoilers here, and I'd hate to ruin anything if you haven't seen this already, but come on back because there's a couple things I want to talk about that I really enjoyed here. After a botched attempt via Ambien, Timmy Lee wakes up to Death carrying him off to the afterlife, except he's not quite ready to go just yet. And the Reaper here is played by none other than Badger from Breaking Bad, which I guess this is like his moonlighting job when he's not hanging out with Skinny Pete. But before Breaking Bad, though, I remember his voice from Kick Buttowski. He has a very distinguishable tone, you can't forget it. So yeah, the story to Death and Ramen isn't exactly a cheerful note. It focuses on a very serious subject, a facet which I think most, if not everyone, has experienced directly or otherwise, but I like how this mostly threads between the lines when approaching that. This is a black comedy, but it didn't come off to me like the story was making light of Timmy's situation. Not even Death approves or disapproves of his actions. He's more or less just along for the ride to help him cross over. In fact, his real death is something which we don't actually see take place. The first time I saw this, I thought maybe after he wakes up from the botched attempt is that maybe he really has gone, but he's in between worlds as a spirit in order to complete his unfinished task. But regardless, Death is taking him away. He is unbiased and simply there to do a job. The workforce has become very corporate, as he said, which I thought was pretty funny. Now, we don't know why exactly Timmy is set on ending his life. We don't know much about him except for the fact that he's clearly lost the will to live. And the first thing that Timmy needs done in order to be ready for the great guitar solo in the sky is to have himself a bowl of his favorite spicy kimchi ramen. Which, I gotta say, I'm an absolute whore for ramen myself, and I love kimchi, but I've never had the two together, and that sounds absolutely divine. He goes into a little monologue about how he prepares it himself, or rather, how his mother used to make it, and I'm definitely down to try and make this myself sometime. But that's one small detail that I thought was very interesting. He doesn't want to go on an empty stomach. We find out later on why this ramen means so much to him, and I just find that to be very bittersweet. Despite his efforts to get information from Death as to what exactly awaits him on the other side, if there's nothing there or maybe something worse, he wants to make sure he's able to enjoy the one pleasure he's kept in his life. But after serving Death a delicious bowl, Timmy suddenly makes a last-ditch effort to see his bedridden mother at home. Their exchange, well, from his side, gives us the most amount of clues as to his mental state and his relationship with his mother. Intercut, we'll talk about the acting really quick. I gotta say, this is the most emotional I've seen Bobby, and it's really weird, but it's a good weird. The premise for this is something that I think takes a great opportunity to showcase his acting range. He's able to be funny, but you also get to see what he's got when put in a really emotional scene, and I think it's awesome. It's funny though, second short in a row where we get to see another mostly comedic actor be in a dramatic role. But no, honestly, I totally bought into it. It kind of made me a little emotional myself, not gonna lie. Same sentiment with The Court Jester. I hope this encourages him to pursue similar projects because I think Bobby definitely has the chops to be something more than comedic relief. But I love his Bad Friends podcast with Andrew. They always cheer me up.
Turn it off!
Okay, it's off.
All right. If I was that Asian lady, I'd order...
I gonna chop chow down, take chow down to Chinatown.
And not to spoil the mood, but his mother, played by Karen Yum, after she's fed the ramen by her son, he gives a hint as to what their relationship was like in her later years, mostly spoiled by what seems to be her fits of rage and anger towards Timmy, which we aren't sure of why exactly, but she's unable to respond, and those last words seem to really hit her emotionally. Now, given that she can't talk, I thought her reaction could be due to one of three reasons, one of which is more comedic, but I think that's left up to us. The most likely one is that she is in anguish because she can't respond to him. Knowing that this is the last time she'll be seeing him, perhaps she wanted to at least apologize and be able to embrace her son one last time before he's gone. Two, which is a little more fucked up, but she's still upset with him in her own way. Potentially because she didn't approve of the ramen he made for her, but that's the most unlikely because there's a moment where she takes his hand. I take that to mean more than likely she's telling Timmy that she loves him too. And the last one, because this is partially a comedy, she's reacting to the spicy kimchi and doesn't have anything to wash it down. She's bedridden. The least he could have done before he left was give her some water, because she's just laying there in agony now. Maybe that was like his last form of underhanded vengeance, but more than likely it's the first one. That'll be the headcanon for me. I like to think they ended things on a good note for the sake of me not shedding any more tears. And probably my favorite segment to the short, it's in two parts. One, the portrayal of the afterlife being like this nightclub dance floor. It's a nice twist of fate compared to the usual conceptions of death either being the pearly gates or burning torment. People from several different backgrounds and stories here, all together just partying the afterlife away, and I think that's a nice fitting end to a life of struggle and depression for Timmy. And second is the music transition, which applies to the whole short in its entirety. It's pretty much the same score, but it's very catchy, and I really like the different forms it takes related to the scene it's in. The composer for this short was done by Savannah Jo Lack, and on her IMDb listing page she's credited for these other shorts, which I'd be interested in checking them out based on her involvement. It's a fucking earworm. So the song starts off in a very sweeping operatic way with the violin overture, and the second time we hear it, it's a softer piano rendition when Timmy's with his mother. And then when it's finally time for Timmy to cross over, its final form morphs from the soft piano version into this house party remix that fits perfectly for the afterlife nightclub setting. That evolving stages of the score I thought was a really nice and clever way to reflect Timmy's circumstances. That's a neat thing we can get with short films. Since they're on a tighter schedule and relaying enough information between characterization and plot, they have to come up with some more out-of-the-box ways in order to effectively hit all those high points. And I've been enjoying seeing the different ways that people try to convey that. Short films are like this booster shot of all the emotional payoffs you'd get in a 90 or 120 minute long movie, condensed down in delivering it within 30 minutes or less. So Death in Ramen is definitely worth the watch. I find the message of it, despite a pretty dark subject, to be oddly comforting. Of course, unaliving yourself is not the answer, and I didn't feel like this short came across like it was promoting that thought. I thought the core to this was in realizing the consequences of said actions and the regret involved from leaving things to go unsaid. Timmy had a second chance to at least say the things he wanted to before heading off, regardless of the situation. His time was up, and I think that's more aligned with the real life message of how unbiased death really is. Whether you still got things to do or otherwise, Badger's coming for you. Thank you everyone for watching. Socials below. Let me know if there's any other shorts out there that I should check out. Just typing in short films on YouTube comes up with so many results it's almost impossible to choose from. Good, bad, controversial, doesn't matter. I don't talk enough about bad content that I find. I get too excited when I find something that I like. I just can't help but want to talk about it as soon as I can. Anyways, there's no shortage of that, but thank you for the support. You guys take care.